It is a special day here at the University of Cincinnati as we get to know the new head men's basketball coach, John Brannen, a great player back in the day, so to speak. You are going into the Marshall Hall of Fame later this year. Were you obsessed with basketball as a kid?
Absolutely. Yeah, it was all I wanted to be around. Playing sports, Dan, when you come up, I basically grew up with my dad's family in St. Bernard. So the opportunity to be around basketball players, the Brannen family had always played at the Pavilion in St. Bernard. So basketball was always something I wanted to be around. And then really what changed it for me was Billy Donovan. When I got a chance to be around him as a coach, I thought I was going to do the normal, get a degree and go into the business world. And changed very much when I learned what it was like to be that dynamic and a coach that impacted kids that much. And kind of went from there.
I've read that as a kid in the summer, you would get up your younger brother, Grant, at 6 a.m. to go practice. Was that the case?
Yeah, I don't know if it was 6 a.m. or maybe it was close to there. And he obviously is already talking to people. So that's probably not a good thing. So I would make him rebound for me and I wouldn't rebound for him, which was the agreement. And I think I paid him $1 a day. But work ethic was never the issue. And I learned that from my parents. And they'll find out with me, our guys will. We're going to work and we're going to put the time in. And I think the best way to hold young men accountable and the best way to gain their respect is by being consistent. And that work ethic will be consistent every day. And I like to think it started at an early age.
Tell us a little bit about your folks, what they did for a living and how it impacted you.
So my dad, I'll never forget, I was 12 years old. My dad walked in with a Cintas made shirt and a stitched on his name, and he changed truck tires at the Kroger plant. And he used to come in with grease on his hands. And one day he walked in with a shirt and tie on. And I said, well, funeral? He said, no, we liquidated the 401 and we bought a small business. So I grew up as a small business owner in the greater Cincinnati area. Bought a Goodyear store and grew up in this area, knowing what it was like to be around a lot of different people and learning from him. And my mom was a sales rep and was wake up in the middle of the night and she was up all night working. So I think you realize as a parent when you become one, the model that you provide your children with, without saying things necessarily, can last a lifetime.
In addition to being a great player, you were a great student. You were a Rhodes Scholar finalist at Marshall. Had you received the Rhodes Scholarship, would you have gone to Oxford and studied?
Well, I don't think we had to worry about it. I think I came in a distant bottom of the finalist group. That's a great question. At that point, I wanted to play professional basketball and had the opportunity to, but I think that would have been hard to turn down. That's the first time somebody's asked me that, so I appreciate you asking. Usually when they get to know me, they know the Rhodes Scholar finalists, they need to check on that.
What did you learn from spending 2 years in Belgium playing professionally?
I learned what it was like to be able to figure things out on your own. I learned that I didn't take advantage of the opportunity to learn culturally what I could have. I learned that sometimes you have to tell young men between 18 and 22, stop for a moment, understand where you're at, be where your feet are. That's a term we use a lot in our program, be where your feet are. I was constantly worried about the future and I probably didn't recognize what I had in the current. And sometimes you got to let the young man know there's a precious present involved, and I probably didn't do that when I was in Europe.
As an assistant coach, you typically bounce around from place to place on your way to becoming a head coach, and you've got several stops in your past: Eastern Kentucky, St. Bonaventure, Alabama, VCU. Did you ever think your career would bring you home?
I did not. You know, when you're in the middle of it, you really don't think, well, what's the next step? You're just trying to take advantage of the opportunity you've been given. Northern Kentucky became, and I ran back. And then with the success, you know, I never imagined Mick leaving, so it was a success that we had, and I was, again, where my feet were. I was just happy to be the head coach at a tremendous school like Northern Kentucky, ready to grow it and try to take it to another level, and then this opportunity arose, and we walked through that door. So, you know, I'm a man of faith. I believe doors are opened by someone higher than us, and now it's our job to take advantage of it.
As an assistant coach and as a head coach, you had some great victories. Back in your assistant days at VCU, knocked off Duke in the NCAA tournament as a number 11 seed. What do you remember about that day?
The dagger. That was what the shot was called. 7 seconds to go. Eric Maynard got the ball out of bounds. We didn't call timeout. Raced the ball up the court. Greg Paulus, who's a friend of mine, was guarding him. Pulled up from 15 feet, which is not a great shot, by the way, in today's basketball, and knocked it down. And what I remember most is getting a chance to make that 15-foot walk to probably the greatest coach in our profession, and getting a win. And that was pretty cool. I always say the greatest walk in sports is get a chance to walk down and shake Coach K's hand with a win. Not many people had the opportunity to do it.
Especially in the NCAA tournament. You have an expression, 94 feet both ways, to describe the style of play you want to implement at the University of Cincinnati. Who came up with the expression?
Doc Sander, the great AD at VCU and who's now was the AD and consultant at East Tennessee State University. We talked about it and we utilized it in our time at VCU, and we've really carried this style of play on to Alabama and now Northern Kentucky and Cincinnati.
You ran an out-of-bounds play last year at NKU, which might be the greatest thing I've seen in terms of out-of-bounds play. It looked like a football play. All 5 guys are lined up on the baseline, and then 4 took off like they were running pass patterns. Where did that come up? Where'd you come up with that?
Yeah, I'd like to say I came up with it myself and I'm that creative, but every idea in coaching is stolen. So Dan Hoard, a good friend of mine, ran at Illinois State. I saw it on the ESPN app, called him up and said, I might run that, and I'll give you credit when I do. And we ran it in a really big game. It was a 3-point game, so we had to get the ball in bounds. And the goal was to get it to our best free throw shooters. Tyler Sharp got it, knocked down 2 free throws, and we beat our rival Wright State.
What are some of your interests off the court?
Being with my family, my wife and my 2 beautiful daughters, and that's really where it ends. I keep things very simple in my life. It's really them and my job and my family. I'm not the greatest golfer in the world. I really don't have any other hobbies. I just like being around my family. And it's a very boring answer. It's not very exciting. Probably won't use it as a clip in today's talk, but I'm really not good at much else.
Your girls are 12-year-old twins. You have that in common with Coach Fickle. He has 2 sets of twins. How do you juggle the demands of this job with being the best dad you can be?
Well, Luke and I were talking about that, and I'm really appreciative of his being involved in this process because he was tremendous in bouncing ideas off of. You had a great wife. That's the first thing we said, and you know every coach says that, but my wife is amazing at keeping me grounded and also putting the girls in position to be successful with a dad who's not always all around. And be where your feet are. So I'm at home, I try to be where my feet are and be the best father that I can be. And she's done such an amazing job with them that it makes it easy.
Congratulations on this day. We look forward to what's next.
It's an honor. Hall of Famer.
That's John Brannen, and I'm Dan Hoard for GoBearcats.com.